Hello, I'm Chris Gillum, Director of Choral Activities at Wake Forest University. Without a doubt, this year has been challenging for all of us, especially those of us who depend upon music and singing to keep ourselves afloat. I've been amazed and encouraged by the incredible resilience and determination that our students have displayed, and their dedication to singing and making music together has never been more obvious or more profoundly meaningful. This concert is the result of many hours of dedicated study and rehearsal for our students. Our presentation focuses on the masterful contribution of women composers throughout the centuries. As we have learned this semester, the musical voice that each of these composers bring to various texts demonstrates the breadth and depth of the human experience through the lens of the divine feminine. The texts they choose to set to music, whether liturgical texts from various sacred sources, or texts inspired by famed poets like William Shakespeare, or Wake Forest's own Maya Angelou, or texts written by composers themselves, each provide us a glimpse into the composer's creative workspace, opening up their unique world to share with us what is meaningful to them and how they express the many facets of life and art that are particularly vital for them. This concert would not be possible were it not for the generous financial contributions of numerous campus sponsors recognized at the end of our performance. We are grateful in particular to the Wake Forest University Interdisciplinary Arts Center, Wake the Arts, and the Program for Leadership and Character for enabling our work in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic. Thank you for sharing this concert with us. We hope that you enjoy the artistry of our students and that you come to appreciate, as we have, the brilliant contributions of these fine composers to a growing repertoire representing the female voice in creation.
just heard 5 pieces based on sacred texts. Our first piece from the Middle Ages by mystic Abbess Hildegard von Bingen. Among her accolades as a composer, Hildegard was also a famed visionary. Her vision served as an inspiration for both her chant and poetry, but she was also an artist, healer, and scientist. She wrote in ecstasy about the Virgin Mary, and because of her role in the church and her strong devotion to women, scholars believe her writings about and to Richardus von Stade indicate that they were lovers.
Composer Amy Beach was the first American woman to succeed as a composer. She was prodigious and a virtuosi pianist with an incredible memory, and she was a great supporter of young musicians in the Boston area throughout her career. Alice Parker, Carol Barnett, and William Meda Spencer are all living composers who have made a remarkable impact on choral music in the 20th and 21st centuries. Each continues to be prolific, writing music not only for the voices, but for instruments as well. And their music is performed frequently all over the world.
The next piece you will hear, written by living composer Emma Lou Deemer, derives its subject matter from a poetry of William Shakespeare. The first and third of the 3 short pieces display the light, fanciful, comedic, and fleeting aspect of life and love, while the second echoes the bitter sentiment of love forever lost. Deemer sets each of these poems in a style that reflects the mood of the poetry, and through the rhythmic and motivic compositional device, sets up a kind of ABA thematic contour to unify the 3 movements in one.
Every Of all the repertoire we have studied this semester, perhaps the next is the most significant and relevant for us at this time in our history. Say Her Name is a composition by Alysia Lee dedicated to Breonna Taylor and the many other victims of violence at the hands of law enforcement. This piece opens with a call to remembrance for the lives lost, repeating in chant-like fashion, "Say her name, she cannot be forgotten by us." Sung by soloists from Winston-Salem State University, with whom we perform this piece in collaboration. Lee's composition features a libation ceremony where the names of Black women and men impacted by gun violence are named. In this performance of Lee's work, we choose to include among the list 2 names of men from Winston-Salem who have been victims of violence by police, Jacob Blake and John Neville. By saying their names, it is our hope that we not only honor the memory and remember the tragedy that still inexplicably occurs on a regular basis, but that our vocalization and recognition of these abuses of power will help bring justice to Black men and women who are wrongfully harmed at the hands of law enforcement.
Say her name, say her name, say her name. She cannot be forgotten by us. Say her name, 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 say her name. She cannot be forgotten by us. Say her name, say her name, say her name, say her name. Put her name in the air. 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 Say her name. Say her name. Say her name. Say her name. She cannot be forgotten by us. Say her name. 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 She cannot be forgotten by us. Say her name. Say her name. Say her name. Say her name. Say her name.
Breonna Taylor.
Say her name. Tatiana Jefferson.
Pamela Turner.
Philando Castile.
Jacob Blake.
John Neville.
United in Song, an anthem for our time, was written in 2018 by Mari Isabel Valverde. Of her music and process, Mari writes, as a transgendered Latina composer, the prospect of studying poetry by women, LGBTQ folk, religious minorities, and/or persons of color is very exciting to me. I am privileged to have a working relationship with the trans, two-spirit, disabled, queer, mixed-race poet Amir Rabaya. When composing for The Voice, I put great care into setting a text. Before drawing a single note head, I memorize the text. I sing it and sketch the composition with attention to articulation and breath. My goal is to honor the text by ensuring clarity and space for the words, and to extend its meaning into melody and harmony. Marie holds degrees from St. Olaf College, the European American Musical Alliance in Paris, France, and the San Francisco Conservatory of Music. Marie's text, United in Song, declares, "We dream of a land brave enough, proud enough, to be united in song, to fight for justice and peace."
The blue, the red, the white, the black, the brown, and all the colors in between. Women and men, and everyone who breathes can sing along with me. We dream of a land, a world great enough, proud enough to be united in song, to fight for justice and peace. Your God, my God, our right to live or not, we all eat from an earth that's free. All bodies, all minds, the young and elderly, we all want to be heard and seen. We dream of a land, a world great enough, proud enough to be united in song, to fight for justice
We have come to the end of our concert, and we thank you for taking the time to watch and listen and hopefully learn a little more about choral music and the women whose voices have made it a powerful, relevant art form throughout the centuries and especially today. We conclude our concert with two pieces. Still I Rise, a gospel-style composition by famed African-American composer Rosaphania Powell, based on the poem of the same name by beloved poet Maya Angelou, and Peace I Leave With You, a short benediction by poet Isaac Watts. In these challenging days, it is our hope that you find peace and contentment, and that choral music will forever be a healing balm along your journey.